Happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian friends and listeners. In this Thanksgiving episode of the Dad's Making a Difference podcast, I want to share thankfulness through loss. I'm going to give you three major takeaways that I learned through going through an extreme period of loss and pain in my life, and how I was able to reframe that pain into purpose. This is going to be a powerful episode for you and for me. Join me in this conversation about thankfulness through loss, starting right now. Hello, my friend. Welcome to another episode of the Dad's Making a Difference podcast. My name is Cam Hall. I'm excited that you're here with me today. I don't normally do this. See, I normally every 4 to 5 weeks, I'll come on and I will share what I'm going through, what I've gone through, what I'm looking at in the future with the purpose of inspiring you, challenging you, and pushing you to make a difference, to become a difference maker in your family, in your business, in your community around you. And every 4 to 5 weeks, I have scheduled that I will come on and share something that I've given thought to, that I've processed through. Well, today, I don't normally do what I'm doing right now. You see, it is October 10th. It is Thanksgiving Day here in Canada. So happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian friends. Of course, it's not Thanksgiving when you're listening to this, but I hope you had a fantastic time with your family and you're able to spend some time being grateful for what you have together. And to my American friends who are celebrating Thanksgiving in November, I hope you likewise have the time with your family, your friends, and those close to you to celebrate what you have and to be grateful for what you have together. It is October 10th, Thanksgiving Day, and I woke up this morning with, an attitude of gratefulness, an attitude of thanks, but also with emotion that I haven't processed through in a while. Because October 10th is not only Thanksgiving this year, October 10th has a very significant feeling to it in our family. On October 10th, 2015, my mom passed away from a long battle with cancer, with multiple myeloma. And so today, this day, I'm conflicted, but not as much as I have been in the past. The first time that Thanksgiving Day and the anniversary of my mom's passing fell on the same day was in 2016, the year after my mom passed away. And I was not ready to process through at that time what it was meant to be thankful through loss. Today, I am just ready. It has been 7 years, and I will be honest with you. If I had the Dad's Making a Difference podcast on previous anniversaries of my mom's passing, I still would not have been able to have this conversation with you today. I just wasn't ready. But today, I feel that I'm ready, but I'm processing through as we go. This is live on a whim. I plugged in, I sat down, I just felt called to share this with you today for some purpose. There's someone listening right now who is dealing with loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship, loss of a job, loss of something close and dear to them. And they might not know how to cope. And I can't tell you how you are going to cope or how you should cope. I'm not going to shit on you on this podcast ever. All I can share is an honest representation of what I'm feeling in an attempt that it speaks to you in some way. I'm deeply grateful today. I'm grateful for the time that I had with my mom. I look back on my relationship with my mom, and I want to give you a little insight. My mom had me when she was quite young. My parents are still young. My dad is still young. I like to say that to him. We just got to spend some time with him yesterday, and Lisa, his partner, yesterday, and it was amazing to do that in beautiful Fernie, British Columbia. But my parents had me when they were young. My mom was 18 turning 19. My dad was 20 turning 21. They were young. I can't imagine being at that point in my life with a child. We were joking yesterday on a hike in the mountains with my dad how my dad at my age already had a 20-year-old. I couldn't imagine. My kids are 8 and 10. But to get back to what I was going through today and what I am going through today is thinking about my mom. thinking about what she taught me, the experiences we had, the moments we had together, and what I'm going through today with this thankfulness through loss. We are hurt when we lose something. If I think back to 2015, my mom passed away on a Saturday, and the 12th, that was the 10th, and then the 12th on the Monday was Thanksgiving, and that was such a weird time. We didn't know what to do. I can remember something. No, I can remember that on October 10th, 2015, there was the most beautiful sunset, I've ever seen. And I have pictures of it, and I love looking at that because I think it was God calling my mom home. And so I think about that, and I might get emotional on this podcast, by the way, but I think back to that time. And if you've ever lost someone close to you, you go through periods where I feel like you're treading water. You don't really know how to feel, how to process what the next step is. You just keep going. And that's what we did. We just kept going. So on that Monday, we got together and we had a dinner and we talked about my mom and celebrated the times, but we were so sad in that moment. And even the following year, 2016, when Thanksgiving and my October 10th were on the same day, there was still that sadness and that grief and that feeling of loss. And for a long time, there was loss, like what we lost and what was no longer with us. And you dwell on that. You do. I'm going to speak through the lens of losing a loved one because that's what I'm processing today. But like I said, it could be losing a job. It could be losing a friend, a relationship that's fallen apart. Loss can present itself in lots of different ways. And so today, 2022, my kids are older. They're 10 and they're 8, and we're together. And my daughter was asking about my mom this morning because she knows the significance of this day. And I smile and I can tell stories and we can laugh and we can look at pictures and we can remember the moments that mattered most. And it is truly through this feeling of thankfulness and gratefulness that we get to remember my mom. We all go through moments of pain, but it's how we come through that pain on the other side. I think that matters. So my challenge to you today is this, and this is what I'm going through right now, is transforming pain into purpose. Transforming pain into purpose. I think about my purpose before my mom passed, and now my purpose after, as a father, as a husband, as a professional. And as my mom's son, I am still my mom's son. And I think about what she would want me to be doing right now. And I still want to make her proud. And so my purpose, what I learned from my mom, one of the greatest things I learned from my mom was to build strong relationships. For a long time after my mom passed, I found that really hard. I closed doors. I walked away from the church back in 2002. Actually, my mom first got diagnosed. I was so hurt, and we were going through obviously a traumatic time in my family. I was young. I was in university. My youngest brother was still in high school. And so we were going through this time, and I closed a lot of doors. And for a long time, those doors remained closed. But in the last few years I had with my mom, and then after my mom's passing, actually more, I realized I had to open doors back up. We got back into the church just a couple of years ago. I started to open up relationship doors with friends that I hadn't spoken to in a long time. I started to let people in a different way, but through a way in which I was very intentional in my connections. And my mom always used to say, when I was frustrated, she used to say, Cam, when you love others first, everything else falls into place. What she was saying wasn't that I had to be happy and loving and smile all the time, although I try to do those things. When I'm not smiling, someone knows something's wrong. But what she was saying is that when you enter into a conversation, when you enter into an interaction, into an event, into an altercation even, but love is the filter, everything else will fall into place. Not easily. It won't easily fall into place. But by love, my mom meant love by caring and through respect. And so that means actually thinking through your interactions and the actions that you're taking. And so today, as I reflect, and I'm thankful today on this Thanksgiving Day for the time I had with my mom and what she taught me, that will always stick with me. That when you love others and when you love others first, everything else falls into place. But man, is it hard to love others sometimes? It really is. I'm coming off a couple conversation altercations, I guess you could call them, from last week, even that this week, and I'm processing through on how I'm going to enter into the next conversation with that person. And so right now, I challenge you, that next tough conversation or fierce conversation or difficult conversation you need to get into, frame it through the filter of love. Grit your teeth in that smile and do it. And you don't have to smile when you're doing it, but care for that person in that conversation. I got to do that this week. But here are some things that I learned over the last 7 years and why I wanted to come on here today and share this with you. Loss isn't easy, but it gets different. Not easier, just different. It's never easy losing someone close to you. It's never easy losing a job or having something fall apart in a relationship. Loss is not easy. But you can start to think about loss differently. Start to think about loss not for what you lose, but what you gain. And you may have heard that before, but I'm going to put a different spin on it today. Not what you gain financially, relationally, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, but what you gain through experience. So when I say when you think about loss and you change it looking through pain to purpose, what I'm actually saying is not looking through it as loss and hurt, but as appreciation and gain. You can gain through reflection. You can gain through thankfulness and gratefulness and gratitude of what you had experienced. And so I want to say that the thing that sticks with me most are, there's times my mom was mad at me. I can tell you that. I can tell you that my mom was one of the last arguments we had was about me not asking my wife Kim to marry me yet. Like, she got right in my face, was like, you need to do this, or you need to let this beautiful, amazing young woman go. And so I remember that conversation with my mom. But I want to challenge you here. What were the last conversations that you had with someone close to you that maybe you've lost? Maybe it was the last interactions you had in a job that you ended up walking away from or that you lost. And how can you cope with that loss in a way that you can define success, and how you can instead cope with loss and you can rather cope with success? That just came to my mind right now. Instead of coping with loss, cope with success. Because by shifting to a sense of thankfulness and gratefulness, you'll feel that in both the highs and the lows. Have a lens of gratefulness. And by doing that, you'll not only be able to cope with your losses, you'll be able to cope with your successes. It's as hard to cope with success. This is what I mean. When we do something well, we sign a big client, we find that right person, the one person, and we have a child, and it's that amazing adrenaline and emotional rush. We still have to cope through that. We have to cope not letting ourselves get carried away. We have to take a breath. We need to take a step back, and we still need to cope through that in some way. So here's what I wanted to share in 3 big takeaways that I learned from my mom that I want to give with you today. And I don't want to just share these as something I learned from my mom that you should do too. These are what I learned from my mom's passing. These are things that my mom never intentionally said to me. She did intentionally say, love others first. But what these 3 things that I've learned that I want you to take with you today are 3 things that I think can shape your life. They can shape your life as a father. They can shape your life as a husband, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a philanthropist, if you're at that point, as a volunteer and serving in your community. The first thing is this: it does get different. It gets different, not easier, but different. Like I said, it's never easy losing someone or going through loss, but it gets different. Embrace it. Embrace the different feelings that you have, the different stages that you go through. Bring other people into those conversations. Don't bottle it up inside. It gets different. Be willing to accept different. Now, here's the problem with different. Different is uncomfortable. Different isn't the routine. Different isn't safe. Different makes us feel that kind of sometimes icky, like, I don't know what to do feeling. My challenge to you is to embrace it. Embrace that feeling, grow through it, reach out, connect with someone. That's why the Dads Making a Difference Mastermind is so valuable. That's why the masterminds that I've been part of in the past have been so valuable, because when it gets different, I have somewhere I can lean into. And I might not always agree with what's happening in that moment when I'm leaning in and somebody's speaking into my life, but different, that uneasiness, that period of the unknown, that's where we grow. So it doesn't get easier, it gets different. So my number one takeaway over the last 7 years and today on Thanksgiving, and also being thankful for the time we have with my mom, is that, hey, embrace the different. The second takeaway is this: moments matter. I have done a solo podcast on here. Like I said, every 4 to 5 weeks, I will come on and share some thoughts with you. Moments matter. Be intentional in creating moments that matter, the defining moments that set you apart, that set a event apart, an adventure. I shared a moment previously on this podcast of a time this summer where we were looking for a rock that tied into when we lost my mom, and my mom and I and my wife and our daughter at the time painted a rock in Seaside, Oregon. We placed it. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't. You'll hear all about that moment. But those moments that you create now, moments when you have people around you, be intentional with those. Like, we all hear the cliche, live every day to its fullest. Live your life to its fullest. Like, don't delay. Just do what you're called to do. Well, that's easier to say than it is to do. It is easier to stay in the safe. I can attest to that. It's easier to stay in the safe than it is to take risks. But you can still create moments where you are right now. And so my challenge to you is this: recognize that moments matter, the moments before that period of loss and the moments after. Like, embrace them. Embrace those times of hurt. Embrace that pain as however uncomfortable it would be. Take your time to go through it, and go through it the way you need to go through it. Go through it with counseling, if you need to, with counseling from a friend, with a professional, with a loved one. Like, find your way to embrace the moments and be present in those moments. And so my first takeaway was, it gets different, not easier. My second takeaway is that moments matter. So be intentional about creating moments and being present in the moment. Man, there are so many times I see dads there, but not present. They're there in proximity, but not present in mind and not present in heart. So be present in those moments. I think my third takeaway is what I said already. How you cope with loss will define how you cope with success. If you allow your lows to get too low, it will be so hard to get out of them. You will get into a rut. And my friend said to me, the only difference between a rut and the grave is that the end's on it. So don't get into a rut. Don't let your lows get too low, and cope with success. Don't let your highs get too highs. Here's what happens when your highs are too high. You crash. You have that dip, and we have these peaks and valleys in our life. And if we're constantly living in peaks and valleys, we will never feel assured in who we are. We will be riding the highs and digging through the lows, not really knowing where we're supposed to be or where we belong. And we will just get stuck in this ups and downs of life without really creating the moments, takeaway number 2, that matter, and without really being present in where we are and being mindful in what we're going through. So those are my biggest 3 takeaways. Biggest 3, again, number 1 was it gets different, not easier. 2, moments matter, so create intentional moments. And 3, how you cope with loss will be how you cope with success. Be even keel. Be present, be mindful, be relational, be open, Love others first, and everything else will fall into place. So here's what you can do right now. Happy Thanksgiving. Be grateful where you are. Be grateful for where and when you've been. This is what I mean by that. Be grateful for the experiences that you have, but where you were in those times. I think about going through when I first found out when my mom was sick. Mom got taken to the hospital. They didn't know what was going on. She went into kidney failure. They put her on dialysis. They quickly put a PICC line in. And my mom was young, 40 years old, like 41, 40 years old. And she's going through this process and they didn't know what it was. And that's when they discovered the cancer. And I was standing in a house where I was renting a room as a student in the summer. And my dad came in to let me know that it was cancer. And he gave me a hug. And I've never seen my dad really cry, but he cried in that time. He left. And I stood there not knowing what to do next. Of course, I was very emotional. A girl who is living upstairs in the upstairs suite of this house, I was in the basement. She overheard. She came out and said, Cam, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know her, but she gave me a big hug. I don't even remember her name. Because in that moment of time, I had blocked everything else out because my needs and what I was processing through, they just took that top notch. Like that was what was important. I was in shock. So the when of that moment, I can still remember that when, but I want you to be grateful for where you are. And I want to be grateful for the where and the when that you've been. And listen to that inner voice in you that says, I'm here with you, because I know my mom's here with me. I already said that to you in this call one way. I said that I still want her to be proud of me. I still want to make her proud. Does my mom know what I'm doing? No, she doesn't. But do I know the values that my mom had and the goals that my mom had for me and the vision she had for what her sons would turn into? Of course, I know some of that. She shared that with me. Do I feel like I have to fulfill that or have to live up to something? Not really. Sometimes you can get trapped into feeling like I have to get to this point so my mom would be proud of me. I don't feel trapped by that. I want my family to be proud of me. I want my wife to be proud of me. I want my children to be proud of me. I want to leave a legacy for them. But I'm mindful of what my mom instilled in me and the values she instilled in me. And that voice inside me that I know that when I do something and someone's like, that reminded me of your mom, I know that voice inside me that says, I'm here with you. And I want to let you know, if you have that voice, great. And if you don't, I want you to know, as someone on the other side of this microphone or this camera right now, that I am there with you. I'm here for you. If you've heard that before, it's because David Osk said it to me in one of the first episodes of this podcast. David Osk looked at me. He said, Cam, I am for you. And there is something about being for someone else that is so powerful. So go out there, be grateful, be thankful, embrace where you are and when you are, and be for other people. My friend, thank you for taking some time out of your day today to listen to this and listen to me process through this live. Not going to be much editing to this. I'm just going to pop this out there. I hope you hear it. This spoke to you in any way, or you have any feedback on this, send me a message. My email's in the show notes, cam@dmdpodcast.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. And if you are ready to surround yourself with men who are going to help bring you forward, help you leave a legacy, will drive you with purpose and passion, and help you in your parenting, then reach out and let's talk about dads making a difference and how it'd be a fit for you. My friend, have a fantastic week, and I will see you on the next episode of the Dads Making a Difference podcast.